Today, we're talking about gold, silver, greed, grit, bad decisions, and the kind of chaos that only free Americans could accidentally turn into national progress. This is the story of the gold and silver rushes. And no, it isn't a bunch of bearded dudes yelling Eureka into the rivers. It's about the raw opportunity, minimal government, and people willing to throw their entire lives into a backpack because someone whispered, "There's money out west." Because nothing says American quite like hearing that there's treasure somewhere vaguely dangerous and immediately saying, "Yeah, that sounds worth it." Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
In January of 1848, a carpenter named James Marshall found gold at Sutter's Mill in California. There was a brief, adorable attempt to keep this discovery quiet that lasted about as long as you'd expect human beings to keep a secret involving free money. Once word spread, rationale thought checked out. By 1849, hundreds of thousands of people decided they were done with their current lives. Farmers abandoned land, clerks abandoned desks, sailors abandoned ships, and sometimes literally while still docked. These people became known as the 49ers, not the horrible football team out of San Francisco. And what happened is this. No one promised them anything, no guarantees of wealth, no safety net. Sounds like the San Francisco 49ers. No gold participation trophy, just a chance. Again, San Francisco 49ers. And apparently, for Americans, that was enough. Here's the part modern people struggle with. California at the time barely functioned as a place. I don't think modern people actually really struggle with that. I don't know why I wrote that, because California at this time barely functions as a place. Anyway, there was almost no government to speak of. Sounds like that California now. Law enforcement was scarce. Sounds like California now. Courts were rare. California now. And towns popped up overnight with names that sounded like a warning label. That doesn't happen now. Well, I mean, Seattle it did. Chaz, I think. Anyway, back to this episode. Sorry. Justice was often handled by whoever showed up loudest and most armed. Was it ideal? No. Was it effective? Also, no. I mean, efficient? No. Did people come anyway? Yeah. Because freedom usually shows up before order, not after it. Most miners didn't strike it rich. Let's just get rid of that fantasy right away. A lot of them worked themselves into exhaustion for almost nothing. But while they were busy digging holes and ruining rivers, other people noticed something more important. Miners had to eat, drink, wear clothes, buy tools, and drown their disappointment in alcohol. So while some folks chased gold, others sold shovels. And guess what? Those people usually won. Capitalism didn't need a committee. It just watched human behavior and adjusted accordingly. And if you haven't seen Deadwood, I mean, be warned, it's pretty rough. It's got a lot of risque things in it, a lot of language, but it's about the gold rush. Not in California, but it does tied to gold rush anyway. Gold didn't just make people reckless, it forced the country to move fast. California went from barely organized chaos to official statehood in 2 years. No longer territory phase, no drawn out process, just boom, welcome to the Union. And here's the part that literally annoys central planners. This wasn't because Washington had brilliant strategy. Nobody sat down and mapped this out. People moved, markets formed, and infrastructure followed. Roads, ports, cities, all built because people needed them, not because the bureaucrats scheduled them. Turns out free people don't need to wait patiently for permission when opportunity stares them in the face. Now let's deal with the part everyone either ignores or weaponizes. The gold rush had negative consequences. Violence, forced displacement, disease, and outright exploitation followed the miners west. The environment change was massive. Rivers were destroyed, lands stripped, and it wasn't an unfortunate side effect. It was what happens when ambition runs faster than morality. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Freedom doesn't automatically make people good. The founders warned about that constantly. Liberty requires virtue or it becomes chaos with better branding. The gold rush shows both sides of freedom in brutal clarity. Opportunity can build a nation, and unchecked greed can absolutely wreck the lives of these people at the same time. Both things can be true, but history doesn't care about our need for simplicity, right? When the gold rush starts slowing down, silver entered the picture. In 1859, the Comstock lode is discovered in Nevada, one of the richest silver deposits ever found. And once again, America's reacted how you think they would. They rushed it. Boomtowns exploded overnight. Mining operations grew massive, but unlike gold, silver mining isn't about a pan and some optimism. It requires deep shafts, heavy equipment, engineering solutions, and constant innovation. So Americans did what Americans do. They figured it out. New drilling methods, new pumping systems, new refining techniques, and none of that came from government mandates. It came from people staring at a problem and saying, we're not quitting. Freedom doesn't just reward risk. It forces innovation, right? Gold and silver weren't just shiny rocks. They were money, real money. And for most of American history, wealth meant something you could hold, not promises written on paper. As silver production increased, it sparked massive political fights over what kind of money Americans should use. Gold only, gold and silver, who controls the supply, who benefits when money expands or contracts. Farmers and working people loved silver. Bankers hated it. Politicians argued endlessly. It's basically what they do now anyway. Because this wasn't really about metal, it was all about control. It sounds like our government now. Who controls the money? The people produce value or the institutions manage it? Right? That was the question. And that fight never ended, and it's still there today. Eventually, like all rushes, both gold and silver booms collapsed. Mines dried up, towns emptied, fortunes vanished, dreams died hard. Here's the part that makes modern sensibilities uncomfortable. No one was promised success, and no one was rescued from the failure. Right? That isn't cruelty, it's freedom. It's what makes liberals uncomfortable. That word, freedom. Right? They say freedom, but really it's just mass control because they're idiots. Liberty allows people to win big or lose hard. And somehow, through all that mess, America got stronger. Infrastructure remained, knowledge expanded, and experiences accumulated. Failure taught lessons that safety never could. The gold and silver rushes revealed something fundamental about the American people. This is the point. Americans value opportunity over security. They'll trade comfort for possibility every time. They'd rather risk failure than live managed lives. And that kind of population is terrifying to centralized power. That's why liberals hate America. People who can uproot themselves, create wealth, and adapt quickly and survive without permission are hard to control. It was true then, and it's true now. So the next time someone tells you that America only works when the government runs everything, remind them that some of the greatest growth in our history happened when Americans were left alone with a shovel, a stupid rumor, and the freedom to succeed or fail. Gold and silver just didn't build fortunes. It tested character. It exposed values, and it shaped our nation. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Remember, history isn't boring. It's the story of reckless, stubborn, freedom-loving Americans who looked at uncertainty and said, hell yeah, I'll try that. See you next time.